Queens of the World. Empress Wu Zetian of China. Empress Wu Zetian rose from royal concubine to become the only female ruler in China's 2,000 years of imperial history. Today, she is seen as ruthless, tyrannical, and willing to murder her own family to hold on to power. However, this female leader has suffered from a millennium of bad propaganda. Many of the shocking and devious actions she took to claim and hold the throne overshadow the good she did for her people. Wu Mei was born February 17, 624, the year of a total solar eclipse throughout China, an event imbued with monumental significance. The Wus were a wealthy family who lived in the Shenxi province of west-central China. Mei's father, Wu Shiyue, was a timber baron, and her mother was a member of the powerful noble Yang family. The household frequently hosted Li Yuan, the governor of the Shenxi province. When Li Yuan overthrew the sitting emperor to become Emperor Gaozu, he remembered his friend Wu Shiyue and made him a governor. Wu Shiyue had a unique appreciation for his daughter's intelligence. While most noble ladies of the day were expected to sit quietly and do needlework, Mei loved to read and learn, and her father encouraged her education, particularly in the fields of politics and government affairs. By the time Mei was a teenager, Emperor Gaozu had been replaced by his son, Emperor Taizong. 13-year-old Mei was offered a prestigious and coveted position as a lesser wife to the emperor. At the imperial court, a concubine status was directly tied to how favored she was by the emperor and how often she spent the night with him. Young Mei was not a particular sexual favorite among Taizong's 100 concubines, but she did impress him with her wits, and he appointed her to be the official secretary of the court of royal consorts. This position allowed Mei to continue pursuing her education in the art of politics. Though she wasn't often warming the old emperor's bed, Mei did have a passionate affair with his favorite son, Li Qi, who became captivated by her beauty, charm, and intellect. Years later, propagandists attempted to explain her favor by claiming that she was willing to perform sexual acts that other concubines would not. This relationship was seen as scandalous, as sleeping with your father's concubine was considered incestuous. When Mei was 25, Emperor Taizong died. As a widowed concubine who had bore the emperor no children, she was sent to a monastery, where she was expected to shave her head and live out the rest of her life as a nun. But Mei was not willing to let her life end at 25, so she defied convention and left the convent. Her former lover, Li Qi, who had succeeded his father to become Emperor Gaozong, saw her at a temple while they were both praying for his father, and he found her to be even more attractive, accomplished, and intriguing than before. He invited her back to court as one of his own concubines. Mei soon gained favor and frequent nocturnal visits with the emperor. She gained power at court and was soon ranked just below the empress. Empress Wang had not given birth to any children, and her status at court stood on shaky ground. She grew to hate her romantic rival, even more so when Mei gave birth to a son and then a daughter. But tragically, her baby daughter died. It was alleged by many at court, including Mei herself, that Empress Wang had strangled the child out of jealousy. Mei accused the empress of practicing witchcraft against her and her baby. An investigation brought forth witnesses who claimed to have seen the empress near the child's room on the night of her death, and Wang could not offer an alibi or proof of her innocence. This accusation infuriated the emperor, who decided to be rid of his first wife. Some narratives accuse Mei of having strangled her own baby daughter in order to frame Empress Wang and claim her position. However, there are no contemporary accounts that suggest this, only legends cropped up hundreds of years after her death. Modern historians believe this monstrous accusation was likely an attempt to sully the empress's name and illustrate her ruthlessness. Some historians further argue that the baby's death may not have been Empress Wang's doing either, but rather the result of sudden infant death syndrome or of carbon monoxide poisoning, which was common in a time when coal was used for heating and ventilation was non-existent. Whatever or whoever caused the tragedy, it spelled Wang's downfall. She and another consort were arrested and imprisoned for the baby's death. The pair soon met their own deaths. According to legend, Mei ordered that their hands and feet be cut off and that they be drowned in a vat of wine. At 31, Mei was named Empress Consort. Emperor Gaozong had ascended to the throne at the age of 21, and he lacked experience and strength. He was also frequently incapacitated with an unknown illness, possibly hypertension, which caused him spells of dizziness that sent him to his bed for days at a time. Gaozong came to rely increasingly on his intelligent and decisive new consort. Mei, now known as Empress Wu, broadened her power as the emperor's health declined. When Gaozong was well enough to attend court, Wu would sit behind a pearl screen so that she could discreetly hear the goings-on and pass on her decisions later in private. However, as the emperor was increasingly taken to his bed, Wu began holding court on her own and foregoing the screen. Her rulings on affairs of state were well-informed, wise, and respected by the people. She thus became the real ruler of China for the remaining 23 years of her husband's reign. Empress Wu had many detractors and enemies who opposed a woman acting as ruler. She was ruthless against those who opposed her, but no more so than any of the male emperors who came before or after her. She had her enemies arrested, exiled, or, as was common at the time, invited to commit suicide, which was seen as a more honorable alternative than waiting to be executed. At one point, a counselor attempted to turn Emperor Gaozong against his wife and accused Wu of working witchcraft. Gaozong nearly deposed Wu, but she discovered the plot and pled her case to her husband before the arrest warrant was signed. The empress instead had the counselor executed. Empress Wu was even willing to turn on members of her own family if they crossed her. She granted her mother, sister, brothers, and cousins royal positions. However, when the brothers spoke against their mother holding a position of power, Wu had them exiled. Her niece, Princess Wei, caught the eye of Wu's husband. He granted her a title, planned to make her a concubine, and likely got her pregnant. But when Wu found out, she had her niece poisoned and framed their male cousins for the murder, who were in turn executed. Wei's brother, Ming-Qi, was suspicious that the empress had been behind his sister's death, so she had him executed as well. But to be fair, he had raped the empress's daughter-in-law and had an illegal incestuous relationship with his own grandmother. Wu's eldest son, Li Hong, heir to the throne, began to speak out against his mother, arguing that she should not hold so much power over his father. Li Hong died suddenly, likely poisoned on his mother's orders. Wu's second son, Li Xian, was next in line to the throne. A sorcerer advised the emperor and empress that Li Xian was unfit to rule and should be removed from the line of succession. The sorcerer was then assassinated. Li Xian was accused of the murder, demoted to the level of a commoner, and exiled. His wife, Princess Zhao, was arrested and starved to death. In 683, Emperor Gaozong died at the age of 55. Empress Wu's third son, Li Qi, inherited the throne as Emperor Chongson, but Empress Wu was not about to hand over her hard-won power. Even her husband's will stated that she should remain in power and named her regent for their 28-year-old son. The new emperor lasted 6 weeks, but as soon as he began to cross his mother, she had him deposed and banished. Wu's youngest son, Li Den, then became Emperor Ruizong, but he was not allowed to meet with court officials or make any rulings on matters of state. A rebellion broke out against the empress, but she sent her army to crush it and executed many courtiers who had risen up against her. She installed locked mailboxes around the capital and encouraged her people to report secretly on anyone who opposed her. Many were accused, tortured, and executed by the empress's secret police. The widowed empress decided to take a lover, a Buddhist monk named Wei, whose brutality rivaled her own. Wei intimidated the other courtiers and took to beating anyone who crossed him. He surrounded himself with the squad of thuggish eunuchs who further assaulted their master's enemies. With so many who had opposed the empress now out of the picture, Wu felt she no longer needed to keep up the charade that she was ruling in the name of her son. She had Emperor Ruizong yield the throne to her and declared herself emperor and the sole ruler of China. She named herself Wu Zetian, or Wu the Celestial, and established the Zhou dynasty, ending the Tang dynasty. Her rule was opposed by many male courtiers who saw a woman claiming power as unnatural and against Confucian law. During her reign, Wu Zetian went through 46 chief ministers, who all opposed her in one way or another. Eventually, she posted a woman to the role. Wu kept her youngest son, Li Dan, around as her heir. Rumors circled that Li Dan was plotting to rebel against his mother, so his servants were arrested and tortured into possible false confessions against him. However, one of his servants proclaimed the prince's innocence and cut open his own belly to swear to the fact. When the empress heard this, she called for doctors to save the servant's life and dropped the investigation against her son, who remained thoroughly chastened. She further kept him in his place by having his wife executed for witchcraft and his sons demoted, removing their titles of prince. Despite the intrigue and bloodshed that had paved her way to the throne, Wu Zetian was actually a very favorable ruler to her people. She allowed commoners to apply to become government administrators and thus brought many new and talented individuals into the government, once stagnant with lackadaisical nobles. The years of famine that had preceded her reign were ended when she commissioned the building of vast new granaries. Their design was improved to keep rice dry and allow it to be stored for more than 10 years and redistributed in times of shortage. Wu Zetian defended the nation against the invasion of the Tibetan Empire and ushered in a period of relative peace and prosperity for her people. Wu Zetian's reign was a time of unprecedented power for women in China. Women were able to travel independently, hold government positions, and do many other things they were prohibited from doing before and after her rule. She commissioned biographies of famous women in order to promote their achievements, and she ordered that children should mourn the deaths of their mothers and fathers in a time when only fathers were seen as worthy of official mourning. The empress used the Buddhist religion, which was growing in popularity at the time, to promote her own popularity with the people. She became involved with 3 mystics: a hermit who claimed to be more than 350 years old, a nun who claimed to be a Buddha and capable of predicting the future, and a foreign man who claimed to be 500 years old. Wu Zetian briefly put about that she herself was Maitreya, or the future Buddha, in order to build popular support for her reign. The empress is thought to be the first ruler to promote the new invention of printing when she ordered the creation and distribution of 100,000 copies of the Great Spell of Unsullied Pure Light, a religious text which spoke of the coming of a great female leader. Wu Zetian also built many grand temples, including the giant Wild Goose Pagoda, which may have been the tallest building in the world at the time. 2 of her grandest temples were burned to the ground by her lover, Wei, in a jealous rage over the empress taking a new paramour. As punishment for this betrayal, Wu Zetian put Wai Yi in charge of rebuilding the pagodas he had destroyed, and when they were near completion, she had him beaten to death, cremated, and had his ashes mixed into the mud that was used to complete the temple. The empress was also furious that her 3 mystics had failed to predict the fires, and they were all banished and invited to commit suicide. Now in her 70s, Wu Zetian took 2 new lovers, brothers Chong Yiqi and Chong Chanxun. As the empress grew older and her health declined, she relied increasingly on the Chong brothers, who, much as their mistress had done decades earlier, seized more and more power at court. 3 of Wu Zetian's grandchildren spoke out against the brothers, and she had her own descendants executed. At 79, Wu Zetian fell seriously ill, and only the Chong brothers were allowed to see her. They passed on her orders to the council, who became increasingly suspicious that the brothers were plotting to take over the country. A group of courtiers, including Wu Zetian's sons, Li Xian returned from exile and Lai Dan, conspired together and had the Chong brothers executed for treason. They informed the ailing empress that her lovers were dead, and they forced her to yield the throne to her son Li Xian, who became Emperor Zhongxun. Towards the end of her life, Wu Zetian had some regret for the torrent of blood she had left in her wake. She had a list of her many sins etched onto a golden tablet and flung from a mountain in an attempt to cast off her many sins. The former empress was kept under guard for the next year until she died at the age of 80. Her son had her buried next to her husband, Emperor Gaozong, and alongside many of the family members whose deaths she had personally ordered. Monuments throughout the Valley of the Kings tell of the many great deeds of the emperors they honor. But Wu Zetian's monument was left blank in an effort to erase her achievements and rewrite the history of this woman who dared to claim power. Though it is undeniable that she ruled with an iron fist and brought about the downfalls and deaths of many, even members of her own family, she was in no way more cruel than the male emperors who came before or after her. But Wu Zetian has been uniquely demonized. The positive things she did for China, and the mere fact that a woman was able to hold power for 38 years and hold the throne for 15 years, is exceptional. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, comment your thoughts, and check out my other royal history videos. If you really want to help, please consider supporting me on Patreon. A link is in the description. Thank you for watching.